Hey, welcome into another edition of the Rice Football Blue and Gray preview show. I'm Matthew Bartlett, Director and Managing Editor of the Roost, joined as always by my good friend, JP Heath, voice of the Owls. Here to talk a little bit of football, here to talk a little bit about UAB. How go things? Have you recovered from San Antonio? Are you moving there?
Yeah, you know what? That did a big anti-sales job on my big pitch about San Antonio being an underrated city. So I don't want to go back there ever again. And like Bloom testified to me Monday night and then during the presser, I don't ever want to have that feeling again because that was a lot of hello darkness, my old friend. That was a rough one, but hey, new week, Monday, made me feel a little bit better. And then, hey, here we are now, and officially seeing your face and officially seeing that spinning owl. You know what? The sun rises again, and here we are off to Protective Stadium coming up on, I guess, Friday, but game time Saturday. Let's roll.
Yeah, this is hump day. We're starting to feel a bit better by Friday. We're both gonna be running through brick walls. That's how it works, right?
Let's go.
Where is this now on your stadium checklist among CUSA schools? I guess you have crossed over 14 at this point.
Well, let's see. This is on the fly. I need to make that list, I guess. Obviously,
Yeah.
all of them now. And then this would be 15, right? And then who left the conference since so at least 15. And little table talk. Who would have left before I get, but at the here and now, obviously everybody
going back to the Houston, Memphis.
Yeah, there you go. Houston, Tulsa, Memphis, if you want to go that route too. So we're knocking on the door 20. Not bad, not bad.
That's a pretty good number. We'll see. It should be nice. I've heard nice things. I guess it took them. They opened it 2 weeks ago now because they had their first 4 games on the road. You want to talk about strange non-conference schedules? That's UAB. So I want to talk a little bit of that, and I kind of want to. I'm trying not to live in the past, JP. We always say that we're not going to do that, but I'm hearkening back to end of last year, prior to Rice playing Marshall. They had just gone on the road against North Texas and just kind of not played well. It was a very depressing game that we were hoping they would be competitive in. Didn't go well. Quarterback got hurt. Everything went wrong. And then they went on the road with half their roster and blanked Marshall on the road 120-0. So not that that's prescriptive of what's going to happen in the future, but I think at some point we've seen if this team is not consistent, they are resilient. So we're going to go roll the dice again. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, for sure. And it's in there somewhere because the parts have changed, but then they haven't. There's still a lot of consistency on the defensive side. A few more different moving parts on the offensive side, obviously with QB 1, 2, 3, and 4, really, that the Owls have played 4 QBs this year. So they've got to find that consistency. The Ari Broussard theme, my gosh, he's been running with such reckless abandon there, and he's been the one guy that I'll definitely take that guy into any game whatsoever. Not that I wouldn't take the other ones, but he's been playing the best, I think, in the backfield the last couple of weeks. And so, like you said, it doesn't mean that Marshall will happen again, but what is daunting, like it was against Marshall, is this UAB defense is probably better than the UTSA defense that we just witnessed in 3+ hours on Saturday night. So how do you move it? Who's playing quarterback? And then I know we'll break all this down more in depth in a little bit, but how do you stop a pretty balanced UAB offense? So obviously a lot of questions are out there, but this team has really gathered itself and played its best ball on the road during the Mike Bloomgren era. So hopefully that part of it could repeat itself coming up mid-Saturday afternoon in the Magic City.
Yeah, I'd be all for it. And you mentioned the UAB defense. I think that's where we need to start because I think this might be it will be a very important matchup in this contest. And I think it's interesting because kind of the theme and something we talked about and Mike Bloomgren mentioned regarding UTSA, especially their defense, it was chock full of super seniors. I felt like everybody that was going to make a tackle in that game was 22. At least, if not older, been around the block a couple times. That's not the case, interestingly enough, for UAB. They do have a lot of veteran players, but the Blazers last year was the year where they lost a lot of guys. A lot of their key players rolled off heading into the 2020 season after the program had their reboot in real life. I guess everybody from that kind of wave made their last appearances 2019. So 2020 was supposed to be, quote unquote, the rebuilding year for UAB, and they went out there and just won another conference championship because that's what they do. But as a part of that defense last year was supposed to be, a little bit greener behind the ears, a little bit more untested, unproven, got a lot of experience, and lo and behold, it's not a bunch of super seniors, but UAB is going to roll out a defense that from top to bottom has a lot of juniors, a lot of redshirt or first-year seniors with the COVID year, with another year after that. So it's not as super senior laden, but it's a defense that on paper, from what they've done on the football field, is probably the most productive in Conference USA, if not close. Is there some bylaw that Rice doesn't have to play both of those defenses back to back?
Let me check. No, get Miss McLeod on the phone. No,
it's not in there.
I don't think so, but I will look that up. No. Yeah, you're right. They don't have the super seniors, but they have the right guys back using that extra year in the right spot. You look at Mole at safety. Seems like he has been there 6 years, and he probably has, with coming back with the rebirth of the program. Wilder in the middle, a linebacker. He's been there forever. Another veteran is Thomas, the corner. And they're really good on the defensive line. Coach Bloomgren broke it down for me a little bit Monday night on our show, but they do some things schematically a little bit different than what UTSA does. But he said it in our gathering yesterday afternoon about that UAB defense. Hey, this is no slight to what we just played. I mean, because he had 102 yards. He didn't say this. This is my probably not wanted commentary. But this is a dominant defense. So Owls have to have their big boy pants on for this one. And it starts with that defensive line. They bring the big 6'7" ends around the side, kind of like the Josh Piercy, KK Orgy position there. But those come around the side, makes it tough to pass over. So I think we'll see a lot more of them still trying to establish that run up the middle, but they've got Big Turner there and Thomas, the guys up the middle. They heavily rotate those guys in the middle too. So it won't be easy. And you'll have to tell me who's playing quarterback for us. I know we'll know more later on in the week. I know not to steal any of your thunder, but and you're a step ahead of me as far as my practice schedules go, but I don't know if Jake's Constantine's going to be out there or if it's going to be Luke McCaffrey or even TJ McMahon that gets some reps, or heck, throw Wiley Green in the mix. But it's same song, different verse. They're trying to establish that quarterback position like we talked about in our very first show. And they had some consistency going there for 2.5, 3 games. But now playing the defending champs at their place in their new stadium, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, these aren't the old Gray Lady crowds when you played at Legion Field. This is going to be a pretty big environment, and this is a team with swagger on defense, but it starts with that defensive line.
Yeah, that defensive line, and something that I think can't be understated. You mentioned maybe in passing Chris Mole. He's kind of a guy. He played a little bit of linebacker last year and has in the past. Kind of moves all over the defense. He's their equivalent of a Traylon Chamberlain that can kind of just do anything. And something that I think that has made this defense so challenging for a lot of offenses to face. You mentioned the defensive line. They're going to get after you. They're going to make you pay. Rice certainly had their protection issues against UTSA, which you don't want to have Alex Wright, whoever is back there behind quarterback, defensive end Alex Wright for the Blazers. You don't want to have him unblocked coming to tackle you. That's how you get somebody hurt, and certainly knows Rice has plenty of that to go around. But yeah, there's a lot of guys, and something about the UAB defense, we kind of have been able to circle around, whether it was Rashad Wisdom at UTSA, Western Kentucky, we'll get to in a couple weeks. We'll talk about D'Angelo Malone. There's these gravitational players where this guy is just the guy. And UAB has some upper level, all conference caliber players, but maybe they might not have that one guy who's head and shoulders of the rest. They just have, Bloomgren talks about getting his team to do his 111th. They have a defense that each guy does his 111th better than just about anybody else. And that's probably what makes this unit so particularly challenging, because it's not as simple as, hey, just make sure you block Alex Wright. By the way, you should. My coaching notes I'll pass along. You should block Alex Wright. Or, hey, let's not throw it in the direction of TD Marshall. Let's go the other way. Like, it's not going to be a defense that has, that kind of player that you can just, if we work around him, scheme him out, we'll be okay. It's going to take a complete offensive showing. And, I guess we're just between you and me. I think I heard you were next up at quarterback if we get there.
Yeah, that's trouble. I'm a huge fan of running the football too, so I will not
unrelated, I'm sure.
Handing it off. This is UAB defense also. They only give up 19 points per game. That's tops in the league and 20th in the nation. And the other big stat they jump out on is picks. They've got 8 picks, and that leads the league as well. So all the other stuff was well respected about their defensive line. You mentioned Wright on the end or / linebacker with his hand down a lot of the times. You put the ball in the air, there are going to be a few guys around it, and they have that ball hawking ability. A lot of that is scheduling. They didn't play the non-conference schedule that Rice did, but hey, numbers are the numbers, facts are the facts. And they're a very, very good defense, probably the best one in league play that they'll see this year.
Hey, they might not have played maybe as deep of a non-conference schedule, but they did play Georgia.
Yeah, that's true.
Which they're pretty good. Yeah. So
in Liberty. Yeah.
And Liberty. So one last that you average, you mentioned 19 points a game this defense is allowing. That's including their non-conference slate. If you want to hone down just to the conference games, if you gave up 56 points against Georgia, 36 against Liberty. You want to talk just USA games? 6 by North Texas, 14 to Florida Atlantic, and a goose egg shutout Southern Miss. So that is 20 points allowed in 3 games.
At Southern Miss, right? That was just this past game. They were at the Rock in Hattiesburg there.
That's correct. Starting a redshirt freshman quarterback, I guess his first start, or true freshman. So that didn't go very well. Fortunately for Rice, not any brand new guys they're going to throw out there at quarterback. I guess this is look at us, professional transition, switching over to the offensive side of the ball for the Owls at quarterback. TBD. What we got on I guess Tuesday from Coach Bloomgren was that Jake Constantine suffered a non-contact lower body injury against UTSA, was not able to re-enter the game, did not practice on Monday. There is still a chance that we see him later in the week. We'll have, if you are subscribed on the Patreon, we'll plug that. We'll have practice notes. We'll tell you at least who's on the field and what we kind of project going into the weekend. So stay tuned there. So in his place, it was Luke McCaffrey taking the vast majority of the first team snaps. We did see actually Wiley Green cycle in for a few of those. I believe he got back and was doing some throws last week and cycled in a little bit with the first team on Monday at practice. So I should have Wiley available, should have Luke available. You mentioned TJ. He's there. Shoki Etrius is sitting there. We haven't talked about him yet. Hopefully we don't have to get 5 deep at quarterback. but what do I know? So quarterback is TBD, and I think that brings us to the running game. And I think actually we're just going to take a break now, and we're going to relay what we've said about the Rice running game over the past 3-4 weeks that we've done this, because it's the straw that stirs the drink for this offense. Rice has to be able to find a way to run the ball. And we talk about Tyler Johnston, their quarterback at UAB. We'll get to their side of the ball on offense and how that breaks up. But you got to run the football. Ari Broussard, who you mentioned a little bit earlier, I think the stat was a 12-yard run or longer in every game this season. Is that correct? He's kind of been a quiet little diamond in the rough that Rice has found that is finding a way to churn out those big plays. So toss it to you, Ari Broussard. What do you think about him? And then what have we seen that is going to make us feel differently about the Rice running game this week?
He's been fantastic. I loved hearing with him. He's a man of few words, and that's the longest in depth I've heard him talk yesterday. He talked to the media, for those that don't know, and he speaks quietly but carries the big stick. The old phrase. He's been running really hard, and the reason he matched up well against Marshall last year is the reason I like him in this matchup here. And it's coaches talked about the green light, and you heard Aria repeat that yesterday. They've got to just go. They can't think about, and I'm very much simplifying this. Okay.
It's this easy. Just listen to us.
Again, I'm just simplifying the relay of the information that came, and I'm not acting like any of this is easy to do from a college athletics standpoint.
They're not asking us to drop any plays anytime soon. That's what I'm hearing.
So that's established. But the way Broussard gets it and goes and he hits it, like he has that and he doesn't have to be told that. He can do that. And not that the other guys haven't bought in, because they've had their other good moments this year, but UAB's coming in and they're going to hit you and make you like it. And Broussard has that same type of mentality on the offensive side of things, that linebacker mentality. For a hot minute, he was a linebacker here before moving back to his natural position is on the offensive side of the ball. He is a dynamo on special teams too. So those two go hand in hand by giving him 4 more carries on the offensive side. I mean, he had last week he had 10 carries for 61 yards. I'm not saying he's going to go out there. Ari Broussard must go out and have 22 carries for $115. No, I'd love that, but it's a complimentary running game, as we all know. But for him to go out there, if he had 14 for 80, I'm really liking that. And for Myers and Griffin to pick up the slack too. And as we've seen in the design plays for McCaffrey, that supplements it. The dump out passes to Myers. That supplements the running game as well. So we'll see what Coach Tui has drawn up in this one to try to counter the aggressiveness that UAB has. But Broussard, that's as last week we talked about the big key going in. This is with Pete, and hey, let's get August Pete some catches this week too. We'll try to hopefully that manifest itself because that didn't ever really have a chance to unfold last week. So that's kind of my 1B in this one. My 1A would be Broussard. But hey, UAB watches the game film.
So offensive keys, run the ball and pass the ball.
Yes, there you go.
For the ball. I'm going to add that one. And
I like the way you put that there. Yeah.
We've got them all covered. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was talking with Ari after practice on Monday. I was asking him about kind of his role in the offense, and or maybe this is Tuesday. All my days are running together. I haven't gotten through COVID time. It's still here. But I asked him about his role in the offense, and he was kind of talking about it, seemed pretty happy. And then I asked him about special teams, and then he just had this big grin. So he likes running the ball, but he likes hitting people too. So we'll need some improvement on that front. And I think kind of a low key benefit of having Ari kind of pick up some slack. and kind of get more production in the running game, is that just frees up Jordan Myers to do a couple other things. He has proven, we watched him against Texas Southern, 160 all-purpose yards, 4 touchdowns. He can run the ball. He is a running back. Like, that works. But having him being able to be a true dual threat option, move him a couple places, just gives you more versatility as an offense. So if you can have Ari back there, Kalen Griffin do some running, I think that's plus. All right, that's the Rice offense, the UAB defense. I mentioned him earlier. Let's talk Tyler Johnston. I guess I presume will be the starting quarterback this weekend against Rice. If you've heard anything differently, JP Heath, let's talk about the UAB offense and what it's going to look like when they line up against the Owls.
I mean, they had Hopkins on their depth chart, but we know that's not always gospel. But
I know he was at least was injured partially in their previous matchup, and I don't know if he went back in. So I guess it could be Hopkins. At this point, Rice has seen a handful of different quarterbacks step in the, I guess I was about to say under center, but in the pistol more than likely for this team. And do the exact same thing time and time again. It might not matter who's at quarterback, frankly. We kind of know exactly what this offense is going to be.
Yeah, they've got their system, and the numbers, how they rank, aren't as imposing as what their defense does when it ranks up nationally. Their best offensive category is running the football, and that's 6th in the league, 167 yards per game. So they're not going to just blow you away on the offensive side of things, and they're fine with that. They're a defense-first football team, and they're really good at that, but don't mistake it. They can throw it over the top on you. And Coach was telling us this week they've got to play the top down on defense because Johnston will throw it over the top on you, and he's their 4th all-time leading passer, and I'd expect him to be the starter, like you mentioned earlier. But they've got Hopkins in there too that has played a lot of football for them, but it could just be Johnston. So he's been there a while. And running the football, McBride had a career high, 137 yards rushing in their win last week at Southern Miss. So they might be getting him hot at the right time on the UAB perspective, but they're not just over the top on third downs, 38%, 8th in the league. To kind of fill in those other pockets there, scoring 26 points per game, passing 197 yards per game. That's 11th in the league. So you see, compared to the other defensive numbers we talked about earlier, there's not just one offensive stat that just goes, oh my gosh, that scares you. But you can't be lulled into a sense of comfort because they're great special teams too. They had some great special teams numbers in the last game too. But yeah, they're not going to wow you with pizzazz on the offensive side of things, but they are very solid on the offensive side of things. And
yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting if you go back and just kind of look at this game between these two teams last year, UAB, they hit 2 long bomb pass plays. And they ended up winning by, what was it, like a touchdown margin or something like that. It was a close game going into the 4th quarter, and that was really their offense, what they were able to muster last year at Rice Stadium, coming in kind of beat up and depleted with everything with COVID. But that's what it is. I think it's interesting if you go look at the numbers, like you kind of read through a lot of them. UAB this year has 17 pass plays of 30 yards or more. For context, Western Kentucky with Bailey Zappi, who we kind of think is the premier high fly-in, throw the ball around the yard offense in Conference USA, they have 18. So one more than UAB. These are completely different offenses. But this is what UAB is going to do. They're going to run it, and try and throw it over your heads. And Rice has been pretty strong for the most part, shut a lot of those things down, especially over the course of last season, not letting guys get behind them. But that's been something, whether it's kind of the rotation they've had at corner or injuries in the secondary, that's been something they've been pretty susceptible to this year, and something that they are going to have to clean up because there's no razzle dazzle. This is exactly what they're going to do. Yeah. Period. And you just have to stop them. which I don't know which one you would prefer. I'm not a coach. Would you want the team that does a simple thing really well 100 times, a la the Army triple option and the UAB passing attack, or do you want someone who's going to try and get creative and make your brain hurt? We'll have to ask defensive coordinator Brian Smith. I don't know. Whichever one ends up with the least amount of points is the right answer, right?
Yeah, and I wonder on the right side of things, who's going to be out there, and you've still got some new faces. Desmond Baker, career high tackles last week, and you had Kirk Lockhart come in. He missed a few plays, but then he came back out there. George Nyakwal not on the depth chart for a second straight week. That hurts at safety. So they've got the mainstays, and Piercy has proven he's a big boy, and he belongs on the defensive line. We obviously know about Elijah Garcia. But Trey Schumann went down a little bit in the last game too and came back. So they're with that type of offense. Let me carefully craft with words how to say this. They're going into a matchup where it could potentially be a lower scoring game, and like last year's game was. That's the recipe. Have a one score difference, make it a close game in the fourth quarter. This has the potential to be that type of game. Pause button, ... If the Owls have a better start. They can't have the wheels shoot off like they did at UTSA. They can't give up. Okay, you ready? Write this down. Anybody out there? You can't have 2 pick sixes in the game. You can't give up the 81-yard run like they did to McCormick last week. So once they adjust and maybe having a few of those moving parts for a second straight week and having another full week of practice, maybe that will solidify things a little bit. But the offense has to do its job better too. They've had a bite of the turnover bug a little bit this season. They can't give up those big plays like they did. I think we think a little bit differently about that game if the Owls have one early offense. I know hey, thanks for bringing up the UTSA game again. But if they had a better start offensively, and if they just connect on that razzle-dazzle play to Bailey, the second play of the game from McCaffrey, they don't have the pick sixes, but I hate being this guy. If. But that all starts if you have a better start. So a lot of those wounds are covered up if you have a better start. So a lot of this game, again, like we've seen and we've talked about, we've nailed a lot of our predictions. If you have the better start, that tells you how the rest of the game will go. Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I not to oversimplify things, but Rice has scored first twice this season. They won both of those games. They lost the 4 that they didn't. If you go back to last season, Rice scored first in every single game they played last year. And when you are going to face a UAB that is the premier program in this conference since they've returned from existing, I guess returned from not existing now that they exist again. If you're going to beat a team like that, the difference between, even if it's just one, that you have one defensive stop and one offensive drive, even if it's a one drive set, the difference between leading 7-0 and getting the football back and trailing 7-0 with the other team having the football, with this team, what we've seen so far this year and their ability to respond in those situations, it's a different team. Maybe that they eventually they want to get to a point where that's not the case, where it's the same team regardless what's happening. But shoot, at this point, any pixie dust we can sprinkle or any key thing we can do to help turn things around, that's what we're about. Certainly make it more interesting. Let's get to the second half and competitive in the fourth quarter, because they've won a couple of those now. They just need to get it there.
Yeah, and then going on the road, it's a massive test again, kind of piggybacking on what they went through. I think they'll learn from the UTSA game, and these are some great high-character guys that have leadership at the right positions, and they don't want to ever feel like they did last week. And can't wait to call it coming up on Saturday at a new stadium.
Yeah, go check it off the bucket list. JP will be there. Go follow his stadium feed. I like Nate going to be around. I like his little promo. Go follow him on Twitter, color analyst, and his little prequel before the games, kind of walking around. We'll have, I guess, the shiny new stadium to check out, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, there
Just
probably has never been a bigger upgrade from one stadium to another in the history of Conference USA, at least up to this point. That had a lot of charm, but I can't wait. Going to have that new stadium smell still. Can't wait for Saturday. We've got the In the Booth feed on the Owls Facebook and YouTube channels, and we're on the Owls Game Day app and the Varsity Network app as well.
the new stadium smell. I got new car. I haven't seen new stadium yet. I'll look for that next time I'm at the drugstore. Oh man, yep. Make sure you guys follow along there as always. We talked. We were supposed to be healthy at this point of the year, Rice was, and we still got lots of bumps and bruises. So stay tuned. Patreon.com/@the-Roost. We'll have another update coming out. I guess a couple at the end of the week talking about practice and who's going to be available and what the team looks like so far. So follow us along there. We got lots of stuff going on. The season, we're halfway through, JP, but we're not giving up yet. We're not throwing in the towel. We'll be back next week, and I guess for the next 5 weeks after that. I can't do math. This is a Rice show, but
yeah, we've established we didn't go there.
We just talk about them. All right, so we'll be back for however many times after this. For now, this is JP. I'm Matthew Bartlett. We'll sign off. Rice fight
never dies.